at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. It is Monday, July 29th. I hope you had a good weekend. 463 days until Judgment Day. Every day, we should thank Trump because he reminds us of how horrible he is. He reminds us of the bigot and the racist and the vile divider of people that he is, and keeps us all going. Because I think there are times like you could check out, and I hope you don't, but 463 days we have until Election Day, till Judgment Day, the most important election of all of our lives. I think potentially the most important election of our country's lives, except for maybe when Abraham Lincoln was elected and there was a debate there of a civil war. And we're not there, but violence is clearly coming. And that's what Trump wants. That's what we're going to talk about today. I don't think there's any place for this idea of political strategy. Is Trump a strategy of dividing people? Or is this what he thinks is going to work to get the white base going? I'm watching cable news debate this, and I want to throw something at the television. Donald Trump is a racist. He is a white supremacist. He's just sharing his views. If there's a strategy intertwined in there, it's that he hopes others like him will come and vote for him. But cable news has discussions on white supremacy of Donald Trump like they're debating a tax policy. There are not two sides to bigotry. There are not two sides to anti-Semitism. There's not two sides to homophobia. There's not two sides to anti-Muslim bigotry. Yet if you watch cable news now in the discussion of Donald Trump's racism and bigotry towards the African-American community, it's as if, it's a strategy, and they sort of sanitize it as people come on and go, well, he meant this because it gets the base. I don't care what gets the base going. It's racism. And we're going to go through that. Look, I'm not going to say Donald Trump wants a race war. That would be over the top. But do I really believe in my heart he wants racial violence? Yes, absolutely. He wanted it in 2016. He called for it in the campaign. And I think what he's doing with these attacks on African Americans and on brown people is to lay the groundwork to get violence. And I hope we don't. I hope there's no race war. I hope we never get to anything like that. But I think this is a man who wants violence. And I say that because Donald Trump is increasingly becoming the fascist that many warned and called the show and talked about. When you look at fascism, and I'm quoting from Madeleine Albright, who has a great book, and I cannot recommend it enough, called Fascism, A Warning. It's a perfect title. It's from last year. Great book. She writes about fascism. Fascism is always, in the end, about stirring people up and giving them someone to hate. What differentiates fascism from other ideological movements is the use of violence and anger to achieve political ends. And what you almost always see in fascist regimes is propaganda being used to set people against each other without any potential solutions to any of the problems. And she was not mentioning Trump there. She was talking about fascism in general. And this is clearly what Donald Trump is doing. And what did we see over the weekend? We saw him first on Saturday attack Congressman Elijah Cummings, a man who's a patriot, a hero, who's worked so hard for his community. He's the chair of the Oversight Committee. And what did he call him? And I think everyone knows this by now, but I want to read some of it to give us context here. He said Elijah Cummings District, which is it's in the Baltimore area. It's a primarily African-American district, and Trump knows that. He tweets, Cummings District is a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. And then he continues on, another tweets. Why is so much money sent to Elijah Cummings District when it's considered the worst run and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? Then he adds this vile line. No human being would want to live there. Then he continues. Where is all the money going? How much money is stolen? Investigate the corrupt mess immediately. There's so many racist tropes in there. The idea that a black man is stealing money, that's in there. That is filthy. It's dangerous. It's all anti-black tropes going on there. But to me, the worst line by far is, no human being would want to live there. Because in Trump's view, black people are not human beings. You know, President Obama talked about there's no white America, no black America. I think Trump would agree. But the reality is different. Trump, there is only a white America. It's not a white America, black America, United States America, as President Obama got to. There's only a white America to Trump. And the rest of us, all of us, brown, black, whatever we are, if you're not white, you are tolerated at best and demonized and marginalized and used as a prop to get his base going at worst. And when you hear that no human being would want to live there, and you hear Donald Trump's words about this black community, it's infested, it's very dangerous, it's filthy. I want to remind you, Michael Cohen, I want to play his quote under oath in February, talking about Donald Trump, the racist, and listen to Michael Cohen describe Donald Trump's views of black people and how black people live, and see if it sounds familiar to these tweets, because to me, it completely backs up what we're saying here, what Trump is really about. So clip number 1, please.
Mr. Trump is a racist. The country has seen Mr. Trump court white supremacists and bigots. You have heard him call poorer countries shitholes. In private, he is even worse. He once asked me if I could name a country run by a black person that wasn't a shithole. This was when Barack Obama was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, he commented that only black people could live that way.
Only black people could live that way, he said about them. It's exactly like the tweets that we just heard. Donald Trump just verifying what Michael Cohen told us under oath in February. Only black people can live that way, and he's looking at some area of that he calls struggling area in Chicago. And you look at the tweet here, filthy, rodent infested. No human being would want to live there. No human being, only a black person would want to live there. And you know, to remind you more about Donald Trump, because history is so important here in showing the credibility or the truthfulness of someone's statement. Donald Trump, his career in racism began in 1973 when Trump management was being sued by the Department of Justice. And it was being sued because he would not rent apartments. Trump management, his father and his company, would not rent to black people. And I want to give you a little of the evidence from there, the actual facts of it, so we see how I think it's persuasive. He got sued by DOJ. The lawsuit was based on evidence gathered by testers, they're called, for the New York Human Rights Division, which they sent a black person to go try to rent an apartment, and then they sent a white person. And they're both in on what's going on. They want to see if you can rent. So, of course, they sent a black New Yorker to go to the property to try to rent. In this case, in 1972, in Brooklyn, a Trump property with a sign, apartment for rent. The black man walks in, talks to the building superintendent. He goes, "I'm very sorry. The apartment is rented. It's gone." But the man goes, "But the sign's out there." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. The sign should have been taken down. I guess I forgot to take it down." Right after that, they sent in a white person. And they greeted me with open arms and showed me every aspect of the apartment. And the building superintendent, when confronted by authorities, later said, "Well, I'm only doing what my boss told me to do. I'm not allowed to rent to black tenants." And they go, "Who's your boss?" And they took him to Trump management. A former Trump superintendent named Thomas Miranda testified under oath that multiple Trump management employees had instructed him to attach a separate piece of paper with a big letter C on it, C for colored, to any application filed by a black apartment seeker, because they were not going to rent to them because of their skin color. Because in Trump's view, black people will make an apartment building rat infested and make it unlivable for human beings, because that's how Trump views this. And I want to play from CNN. If you haven't seen this, I wish you could see it. I'll play the audio of it. It's a little longer than clips I usually play, but I think it's so important. It's Victor Blackwell. He's a CNN anchor. And I've been on TV with Victor many times in the past. Really good guy. And you're going to hear him talk about Trump's tweets. And I even cut it down because it's longer and I try to do it justice. You'll hear a moment in this when Victor is silent. And if you wonder what's going on, he's fighting tears on national TV. Donald Trump's racism moved a proud black man to tears on national TV Saturday. That's where we are in this country. The president of the United States racism moved a proud black man to tears on national TV. And Victor Blackwell is a journalist. He's not an opinion guy. He's on in the morning, Saturday and Sunday, and fills in at other times. And here is Victor Blackwell. It's about 2 minutes long. And again, when you hear the silence, and I so encourage you to watch it. It went viral Saturday on Twitter and social media. Watch this moment, and I dare you not to fight tears yourself. Here's clip number 2.
This time it's House Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings. He wrote this: Cummings' district is a disgusting, rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. No human being would want to live there. Infested. That's usually reserved for references to rodents and insects, but we've seen the president invoke infestation to criticize lawmakers before. You see a pattern here? A week before his inauguration, January 2017, Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime infested. Donald Trump has tweeted more than 43,000 times. He's insulted thousands of people, many different types of people. But when he tweets about infestation, it's about black and brown people. September 2014, at the height of an urgent health emergency, why are we sending thousands of ill-trained soldiers into Ebola-infested areas of Africa? Bring the plague to the U.S.? Obama is so stupid. Infested, he says. There's a revolution going on in California. So many sanctuary areas want out of this ridiculous crime-infested and breeding concept. Infested, he says. The president says about Congressman Cummings' district, that no human would want to live there. You know who did, Mr. President? I did. From the day I was brought home from the hospital to the day I left for college. And a lot of people I care about still do. There are challenges, no doubt, but people are proud of their community. I don't want to sound self-righteous, but people get up and go to work there. They care for their families there. They love their children who pledge allegiance to the flag, just like people who live in districts of congressmen who support you, sir. They are Americans, too.
What a great moment by Victor Blackwell. And I'm sure so many cried with him and watched that. And I reached out to Victor on Twitter by DM, which is just like email, and he said he was happy that it resonated with so many people. And it was, think about this. I mean, July 28th, 27th, 2019, there's Donald Trump's racism has moved a black man to cry on national television. That's where we are. We have a man in the White House, and I literally cannot believe I'm watching this. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like a horrible nightmare. A man in the White House who openly spews anti-Muslim bigotry, who won the campaign by calling for a total and complete shutdown on Muslims. A man who demonized immigrants and Mexican immigrants as rapists, who mocked a disabled reporter, who mocked women who came forward to say they were sexually assaulted by him, calling them liars. And a man as president who's continued to demonize African-American leaders, one after the other, calling them low IQ, dumb, unintelligent, living in places that human beings wouldn't even live. And demonizing brown people like Rashida Tlaib and AOC and Ilhan Omar. Send her back. Send each day. I cannot believe where we're falling as a country. I can't believe this is happening to us, this great nation that, and I keep thinking my late father who came to this country because it was a great country. That it represented something so special. And for so many others, it represented something special. And Trump is destroying that in front of our eyes, ultimately destroying it. And then today, Donald Trump was not happy enough with his trashing of Elijah Cummings in a district where black people live. He went after Reverend Al, who I like Reverend Al. I go on his show about once a month now for the last 6 months, and I've gotten to know him. I'm not going to say we're buddies, but I know Reverend Al. He's been on this show, and I think the world of him. And he has some things in his past, and he's apologized for certain things that he's done. But he's evolved as a person, and he is truly a great activist, a civil rights activist, doing fabulous work. But Donald Trump today went to Twitter and said, Al is a con man, a troublemaker, always looking for a score, just doing his thing, must have intimidated Comcast/NBC, adding hates whites and cops. What did Reverend Al had done to deserve that? He was just criticizing Trump on TV, like hundreds of pundits over the weekend. But Reverend Al is black and well known. So Donald Trump had to feed more bigotry to his base. So he went after Reverend Al. Every show you went on the weekend, they were slamming Trump over his racism. But it had to be Reverend Al. And then he adds in his tweet, his next tweet, the idea, So tired of listening to the same old bull. Next, Reverend Al will show up to complain and protest. Reverend Al to show up and complain and protest. If you're not from the New York area, you might not know what that means. But that's code. Because when I was growing up here, because Reverend Al was a civil rights activist, he would show up and protest. And white bigots would use that term. Uh-oh, if you do that, Reverend Al's going to show up. So all Trump is doing is regurgitating what bigots like himself have said. It's not MAGA, it's KKK. It's not MAGA. It's not Make America Great Again. It's not I'm not going to say make hate again. We're already hating. It's not white again. This is Klan garbage. Now, Reverend Al responded on Twitter, Trump says I'm a troublemaker and con man. I do make trouble for bigots, he says. If he really thought I was a con man, he would want me in his cabinet. And then Reverend Al in Baltimore today, slamming Trump in a very measured way. Reverend Al is being very measured here. And I think this was a great response. Here's clip number 3, please.
Little did I know that Mr. Trump was going to, on the eve of this, attack the congressman from this city. And not only the congressman, but the people of this city in the most bigoted and racist way. He attacks everybody. I know Donald Trump, he's not mature enough to take criticism. He can't help it. He's like a child. Somebody says something, he reacts. He's thin-skinned and not really matured that well. But he has a particular venom for blacks and people of color. He doesn't refer to any of his other opponents or critics as infested. He does not attack their districts. He attacks Nancy Pelosi, he attacks Chuck Schumer, he attacks other whites, but he never said that their districts or their states are places that no human being wants to live. The fact of the matter is, Elijah Cummings' district is the most well-educated and middle-class aspiring district of blacks in this country.
But Donald Trump doesn't want you to know that. And Reverend Al makes a great point. Donald Trump has attacked countless people, as you heard from the clip from CNN with Victor Blackwell. But there's a difference in tone. You know, Donald Trump today called Al a con man and a racist. Hates whites. Why hasn't Donald Trump ever tweeted that David Duke, who supports Donald Trump and still does, the former Klan leader, is a con man and a racist? Why hasn't he done that? Why hasn't he called out the other white supremacists like Andrew England at the Daily Stormer, the neo-Nazi publication that came after me? They write countless articles praising him. Why has he not used the term neo-Nazis are con men and racist and they hate black and brown people? He hasn't for a reason, folks. Why were there both sides? He equates the good and the bad in Charlottesville. Because this is who Trump is. It's not a political strategy. Donald Trump is simply a white supremacist who feels like he can say anything he wants now because his base stays with him. 90% of the GOP is on board with him. And I, for one, I will not have Republicans on this show as long as Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. The same way I will not have Klan members on my show or neo-Nazis. They're not good Klan members to me. There's not good neo-Nazis. If you're part of the GOP, you are part of a hate group because your leader is a white supremacist. So leave your party temporarily and then come back to it. And I'm happy to have you on. If you're never a Trumper and you're out there attacking Trump all the time, maybe I might have you. Like Michael Steele's a great guy. But I'm not going to have Republicans on. I will not have neo-Nazis on. You could be the nicest Klan member out there. You can have a bake sale and you iron everybody's hoods every week. I don't want you on because you're part of a hate group. I don't want Republicans on because you're part of a hate group. Unless you disavow the GOP and Donald Trump, you're not coming on my show. And I wish others in the media would do the same thing. There's not two sides to this racism. People are going to get hurt. Donald Trump has already incited violence. He has radicalized people. The MAGA bomb, remember him? His lawyer just argued in court a week and a half ago, and I'm not exaggerating. He said Donald Trump radicalized his client. That's the words his lawyer said to try to defend his client. Donald Trump has radicalized people. I've written about the people. The 3 guys convicted of terrorism in Kansas who were plotting to kill Muslims there, who on the FBI team, the 3 white guys who are white supremacists, mimicked the words of Donald Trump about dipping a bullet in pig's blood before shooting the Muslims and killing them. That's from Donald Trump's lying story about General Pershing, which never happened. You had 3 guys, and they got 30 years to life. This is not like they were just accused. They're gone. They were convicted, and they're gone. And that gets so little coverage in our media because when white people want to kill brown people, it doesn't get much coverage. But when brown people want to kill white people, that's all you hear. And that's actually quantified. That's not anecdotal. Studies have shown that. It gets like 8 times more coverage, literally quantified. If brown people want to kill white people, 8 times more coverage than when white people want to kill brown people in this country through acts of terror. This is the world we live in. The media is horrifically complicit. And I want the media to wake up now. Forget Fox News. I mean the ones that are responsible. And I should be specific. I mean cable news. Print media actually does a very, very good job. People don't read as much as they should. Cable news media is horrific. And watching some shows, not all, on MS and CNN where they have the Trump supporters on and they try to put things in context. And they say things like, they'll ask about Trump's racism, and they'll always say this, well, I wouldn't use those words. You know what I want the anchor to go? Okay, so what words would you use to convey your racism? Because you're not troubled by the racism, so you got no problem with the racism. So tell us the words you would use to demonize black people. What words would you use to demonize brown people? That's what I'd like to hear them ask them, but they don't ask them that. They go, oh, well, and they have this context and blah, blah, blah. And then they try to argue facts. Well, crime is up in Baltimore. This is not about Baltimore. This is just another in a drumbeat of attacks on brown and black people by Donald Trump to make his base happy. Because if Donald Trump was attacking the Klan and neo-Nazis with the same venom that he goes after black and brown people, we would not be having this conversation. I'd be like, well, look, he goes after everyone the same. There's never been one tweet with the same level of venom and anger against Elijah Cummings and Reverend Al Sharpton and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib as he never even close when it comes to white supremacists and neo-Nazis. He could easily do that. He can easily go to Twitter. And he doesn't, folks. And this is not a game. Let me finish this monologue where I began with the words of Madeleine Albright from her book Fascism. And I want you to remember this. And this was not written about Donald Trump. Fascism is always in the end about stirring people up and giving them someone to hate. And what differentiates fascism from other ideological movements is the use of violence and anger to achieve political ends. That's what Trump wants. He wants violence. How he'll use it, I don't even know. I could guess. He will use it when one of his supporters maybe attacks a black or brown person, and then there's some retaliation by black or brown people against white people. And then he will use that to try to stir up even more anger and try to use, and the goal I would think is to try to have angry white people at polling places to intimidate people of color so they don't vote. I mean, that's part of this. If it's even more devious, more sinister, trying to use this to suspend habeas corpus, because invasion is in the Constitution. If there's invasion, you can suspend habeas corpus. That means simply you can just arrest anyone you want without charge. That's what habeas corpus is. Just produce the body. You don't have to do that. I don't know. We know nothing's off the table with this guy. We all know that. Even Trumpers know that. You might like that. And this is not about owning the liberals, Trump supporters. This is about open racism and bigotry. It is un-American. Donald Trump is the most anti-American president in the White House in modern day. And this is where we are. So I'd love to hear from you. What is your reaction to Trump's racism? And where are we going as a country? 866-997-4748. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. You're my guest right to the top of the hour.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Whoever's the next president, we should call him the 45th president of the United States. And this will go down as a dark time in America that we'll never refer to again.
SiriusXM Progress.